Hello, St. Joseph Angels. It is October and time for a new virtue of the month. So this month we have a great big long word. It says studiousness. Studiousness. If you were to look at the root word of this, you would see the word study, to study. And as a virtue, studiousness means to seek knowledge or to look for knowledge in order to grow closer to the truth. So you're going to seek out learning things in order to grow closer to the truth. Notice that truth is capitalized here because when we refer to truth, we're talking about who is truth, who is all-knowing, all-true, but God. So in other words, studiousness helps us to learn things to help us grow closer to God. All of us actually are born with a desire to know things. That's just built in us. God put that in us. So we are born with that desire to learn. And we know that if we want to learn something, it requires much effort. That's why I capitalized all the letters in effort. It takes a lot of effort to know something. And that means that if you are being studious, that you are doing your schoolwork, you're doing your homework, you're listening to your teacher, you're listening to me right now. And sometimes to be studious means that we have to have good postures for learning. So check yourself right now. Are you looking at the screen? Are your eyes on me? Are you sitting up straight in your chair? Are your feet on the floor? Is your chair pushed in? Is your desk free of distractions? All of those things, all of those postures help us to learn better and help us get our schoolwork done, our homework done, help us to be better listeners. Is my mouth closed and I'm just listening right now as opposed to talking? All of those things go into the virtue of studiousness. We also know that studiousness helps to curb our desires to learn things that lead us away from God. So there's all kinds of learning that can go on. Not all learning is good, right? Because if we're learning things that take us away from God, then that would be the opposite of studiousness. So we want to choose things that lead us closer to God. So let's think about some of those things. So we have, remember, the opposite of a virtue. So our virtue is studiousness. The opposite of that is a vice. And our vice for studiousness actually is the word curiosity. Curiosity of the wrong things. So curiosity itself isn't always bad, but being overly curious about the wrong things, in other words, spending our time, our effort, our energy on things that don't help us grow closer to God, that don't actually help us to learn. What would be some of those? How about just being aimlessly on the internet, scrolling away? Maybe on your phone you're scrolling, or you're looking at the internet, just going from thing to thing. And you're like, oh, that looks interesting. Oh, that looks interesting. And you're just click, click, click and going to different things. What a waste of time. That is not studiousness. That is the wrong use of curiosity, just looking aimlessly at things. And the problem with that is sometimes you come across things that you shouldn't be looking at, that are inappropriate, either in what they're saying or the pictures. And that definitely leads us away from God. We want to find things that lead us close to God. How about gossip? What's gossip? When you're talking about somebody in a way that is unflattering to them, or you're listening to someone else talk about someone in an unflattering way. Both of those would be wrong if you're doing the talking or if you're just joining in by listening to gossip. That would be the opposite of studiousness. That would be a device of the wrong, being curious about the wrong thing. TV and YouTube, especially if it's inappropriate viewing, right? So everything on TV isn't bad. Everything on YouTube is not bad. In fact, this video is going to be on YouTube, so it wouldn't be considered bad, I don't think. But there are a lot of bad things out there, a lot of things that are trying to lead you away from God. And so you have to be very mindful of that. And you have to be very deliberate about what you choose to look at and what you choose to click and get off of as fast as you can. Songs that we listen to, right? Sometimes songs have great beat to them or a melody to them, but when you stop and listen to the lyrics, that's what we call the words of a song, right? The lyrics, when we stop and listen to those, they are talking about things that definitely are not leading us closer to God, or leading us away from God. Very inappropriate lyrics. Sometimes they take God's name in vain. Sometimes they use other cuss words in lyrics. Sometimes it's just what they're talking about isn't appropriate, especially for someone that's your age. This one I thought was interesting. Watching the news on TV, but watching unimportant news. On our televisions, on our phones, everywhere, we get 24-hour news, constant news. In fact, my phone, it even pops up if something that they think is exciting happens. It pops up as a little flag on my phone. All of that just fills us with a lot of unimportant knowledge that we don't need to know. And that's actually a vice. And then this one always makes me want to really talk about it. And that is the books that you are choosing to read. What are you reading for fun? What are you reading for pleasure? Are the characters in it virtuous? Or are the characters in it getting laughs because they're being disrespectful? Or are they getting laughs because they're being inappropriate? Right? Those kind of books do not help us be studious. They, just the opposite. They fill our minds with things that lead us away from God. So be very careful of the books that you're choosing to read. Of course, every month we talk about some saints that show the virtue. And so this month, the virtue of studiousness, I have two here that I picked out that kind of go together. So the first one is St. Albert. St. Albert loved nature, and the more he was in nature and the more he studied nature, the more that he loved God, because he knows that everything that was created was from God. And so being in nature helped to bring him closer to God. So he is a great saint to talk about for studiousness. The other one is St. Thomas. And actually, St. Thomas was a student of St. Albert. So he was the teacher and St. Thomas was the student. St. Thomas was very reflective and quiet, didn't say much, listened, took it in. And because of that, he got the nickname the dumb ox. Kids made fun of him, or the other students made fun of him because he didn't say much. So they thought he was dumb. Actually, he was a genius. And so he actually ended up becoming a doctor of the church, and a doctor of the church, and this means not the doctor that makes you well, like when you're sick, but the doctor of a church is someone whose writings really reflect and give a lot of good information about the faith. And so he grew up to be considered a doctor of the church because of his great love of God and the way that he was able to express that in his writing. He is also, St. Thomas is the patron saint of Catholic schools. He's the patron saint of Catholic school students. So he's a great one. Father Shockey talks about St. Thomas a lot. So those two saints, some of you will be studying. I think some of you have someone else. So be sure to find out what made that saint studious. And remember, those saints are for us to try to emulate or to try to be like. So today, your challenge is, and for the rest of the month, your challenge is to be studious. How can you be studious? How can you have the posture of a student? Where should your eyes be? What should your mouth be doing? Are your ears listening? Are you focused on the task at hand? Are you sitting up in your chair? Are your feet on the floor? Is your desk cleared off? Are you not messing with stuff? So you have the posture of a student, but then also that you're being mindful of what it is you are learning. Are you learning the correct things that bring you closer to God by the books that you choose, the music you listen to, the TV that you watch, the lessons that your teacher gives you? So studiousness is our virtue this month. Have a great day.